All right, welcome to lesson 1 of Western horsemanship. We're going to talk about very beginning how to start to ride your horse safely. Jasmine here has agreed to help us, and she's not a beginner, but she is a great riding student here at the school, and she will be a great model for us to help illustrate the things that we want to talk about today. So basically, what we want to talk about today is, first, let's rewind a little bit. So you notice that Jasmine has a helmet on, and we're big into wear your helmet, protect your head. You know that those are very important things. And she's already mounted her horse, so we will go back and we'll talk about mounting and dismounting here in a little bit, okay? So for right now, what I want to talk about is the very basic, the most fundamental, important thing in riding is balance. And so we achieve balance in the saddle by maintaining a line between our head, our shoulders, our hip, and our heel. And we want our heel to be pointed to the ground and our toe to be pointed to the ceiling, okay? And the two key parts of this that really hit home for maintaining that balance are your heel and your shoulders, okay? So when you're riding along, and the second that you feel like you have become unstable or you're starting to lose your balance, you should think, are my heels to the ground, toes to the ceiling, are my shoulders back? And in those two things, you will find your balance again. And I want to show you a little bit about why this is correct, okay? I don't want you just to like take it at face value that I'm, correct. So the reason is, Jasmine, can you point your toes to the ground and keep your hand off the palm? So point your heel again. Point your toes to the ground. Okay. So when you point your toes to the ground, that tips your body in front of the line. Pause that, please. So, Jasmine, when you point your toe to the ground, what happens to your body?
It tips forward, and it's almost like you have zero balance and you can't hold yourself up, and it's just not stable.
Right, so if your toes are pointed to the ground, and here's your line, then your body tips forward, and we call that being on your horse's forehand, okay? So this is the forehand of your horse. Now, what happens is if your horse has forward motion and you're on the forehand, you don't have an independent command of your own body, right? So if your horse trips or if your horse is going forward, you're being pulled in that direction forward, and you're very unbalanced, okay? And that only compounds or gets worse as your gait gets faster, okay? So then, likewise, if you're behind the line, so Jasmine lay back, if you're behind the line, now you're equally unstable, and although you can maintain your seat being behind the line, because if you can have some abs of steel that'll hold you up, you're still not overly stable, okay? Being behind the line, it does have some applications. We call this kind of our safety seat. When we put on our brakes to stop, we're bracing against the forward motion or inertia so that we aren't pulled forward. But in general, when we're riding, we want to maintain the line between our head, shoulder, hip, and heel, okay? Now, our first gait that we're going to talk about is the walk, and it's a 4-beat gait. 1, 2, 3, 4. And so in this gait, we would want that head, shoulder, hip, heel line, okay? Now, next, before we start moving, let's go ahead and talk about steering. Steering, stopping, starting, okay? So we have our balance in our seat. If you have your line, gravity is gonna pull you straight down into that seat, and it's gonna help you, and that's why you achieve balance from that, okay? So now, for our hands, let's talk about that next. Our pommel is the yoke piece that is in front of your saddle that has your horn attached to it, okay? We never rest our hands on the pommel or on the pad or on our horse, all right? our hands are gonna stay between the horse's withers and the top of your horn there, okay? And they're gonna be as if you have a bit in between your hands. So your left hand is gonna stay on the left side of your horse, your right hand is gonna stay on the right side of your horse. The distance between your hands is as if you have a bit, like this bit, in between your hands, okay? Now, how we hold our reins, if we put our thumbs to our chest, grab evenly on either side of our reins, give ourselves a thumbs up, and close the roof over the house. This is how we're gonna hold our reins, okay? We're gonna have the rein in between the house and our pinky finger here on each side, and we're gonna hold like this, all right? So hands are below the level of the horn. They're not resting on your pommel or your horse. We have the left side on the left side, the right side on the right side. We're not gonna cross midline right now, okay? Now, here's another part that becomes very hard as a beginner to grasp. So the amount of reins that you're going to keep in your hand is dynamic. It's ever changing because the carriage of your horse's head is going to be dynamic. So in other words, when we're doing our 4-beat walk, our slower walk, our 4-beat slow walk, sometimes our horse's head carriage is more elongated, okay? So that means you'll need to give more slack out in your reins. The amount of slack that you're going to give in your reins has to do with, do you have contact with your horse's mouth, okay? So you have to stay below the horn here, but you have to be able to have enough rein in your hand to be able to elicit a response from your horse's mouth while you stay down here. So if you're not collected up enough in your reins, then you can pull all you want, but you're not tipping your horse's nose at all, okay? And so that's when you have to collect up your reins, and then you will have more control here, okay? Left, right, stop. Okay, so that's one thing that it takes some time. It takes a lot of just practicing and doing it to be able to get to that point where you know to collect up, to let out, collect up, let out. If you're collected up too much, you're pulling on your horse's face, which is another common mistake. Your horse isn't going to go anywhere because you're telling it to stop, right? It doesn't matter how much you tell it to go, it's just going to stand there, okay? All right, so if we want to go to the left-hand side, we're going to tip the horse's nose, but as you can see, that's only going to affect this much of the horse's body, right? That leaves all this body that can do whatever it wants, right? So that's why the majority of our steering is done through our seat and our legs. Tipping of the horse's nose to the direction that you want the horse to go is only a tiny part of your steering, okay? So in other words, if I want my horse to go in this direction, I'm gonna first look in that direction, tip, press my leg on the horse in that direction, okay? So that leg and that change in my body and the change in the seat is gonna tell my horse, the body of the horse, to go in this direction, and not just the nose while the body pops out in another direction, okay? Same with the opposite. If you wanted to go to the right, you're gonna look, tip, and put your body on your horse. You're gonna put your leg on your horse's body to go in that direction, okay? Now, so say we're doing an exercise where we're on the rail in the arena and we wanna make a turn to the left. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna walk, and about 3 strides out, we're gonna start to look in that direction. And I mean really look in a 90-degree angle. That's gonna change your seat. That's kind of like your blinker light to your horse. You want very clear communication to tell them what you're gonna want them to do. So we're gonna look, and then at the time that we want to make that turn, we're gonna tip the nose and put the leg on the horse. Then, if we've scooted them too far off the rail, we're gonna use our inside leg to pass them back over onto the rail and tip our nose just that little bit, okay? So then, if we want want to stop our horse, what we want to do is we want to tuck our tail under us and pull back with both reins evenly, okay? And as soon as we elicit that stop, we give their head back. That tells them, good job, that's what we ask you to do. Now, if they start to move again, tuck and ask, let go, okay? All right, now, that brings us to the last thing before we start to take a walk here. If your horse takes off and you cannot get the horse to stop by the traditional method of tucking your tail, pulling back, and pulling back as hard as you can, there is an emergency stop, okay? There's an emergency brake that you can pull on your horse, and it is a 3-step process. Number 1, you're going to put both reins in your hand. Number 2, the offhand, you're going to grab as far up to your horse's face as you possibly can. Number 3, you're going to put that horse in your pocket. So Jaslyn, do you want to show us how that works? 1, 2, 3. And we're going to keep that horse in our pocket until she stops moving her feet. No matter what, until she stops moving. Now, let her out. The second that she stops moving her feet, and I mean stops, she can be let out of your pocket, okay? That's called the emergency stop. Now, you can do that anytime except if your horse is going uphill or downhill. If your horse is going downhill and it's running away from you on a trail, you don't want to do this because your horse will somersault over top of you. If you do it going up a steep hill, they can somersault over top of you backwards, okay? So those 2 times you don't want to do this. The other thing that we can do is called an emergency dismount. And if your horse is running away from you and you really can't ride it out and you feel as if you would be safer on the ground than to continue the ride, then you can do the emergency dismount. And basically what you're going to do is you're going to hold the reins in your hand, you're going to bring your leg around and just jump down out of the way. If you land on the ground and you're not able to stay on your feet, say you're going at a higher speed, you're going to roll away from your horse. Okay? And we'll show that at a different time. All right. So right now, I want Jaslyn to go ahead and show us your line in your seat. And I want you to go ahead and put her on the rail and just make some turns for us going around the arena at the walk. And we're going to talk about the different kinds of walk, and we're going to talk about how in riding your horse, you're not a passenger. You should never be a passenger on this horse. You are an active rider, and you are a part of this ride, of this horse's ride, okay? So, when we're walking here, I want to just use an illustration. So you find your seat bones, where your seat bones are in your seat. And I want you to imagine that you are the one that's walking with your horse, okay? So if you're walking with your horse, Jaslyn, if you want to drop your stirrups for us. You're walking with your horse, so your inside leg, outside leg, inside leg, outside leg is swinging with your horse, and you find your seat bones. Then, if you chuck off your legs and you make your horse's leg your leg, okay? So now you can ask your horse forward. You can elongate that stride with those seat bones, just as you made those horse's legs your legs, right? Good job. Now what this does is it moves with the actual motion of your horse. That 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Instead of moving flatly with your horse and kind of being in the way of that motion, to where your horse has to carry weight that isn't going with it. Okay? So in riding, your purpose is to communicate what you're asking your horse to do through your movements in that saddle. Rainey wanted to stop and talk to her friends out there. That's her pasture out that door. So what you're trying to do is communicate to your horse what you want the horse to do. Okay? So you're the horse's brain, the horse is your legs. All right? And you have to correlate this as one being in order to get whatever ride that you need, right? Are you barrel racing? Are you a hunter jumper? Are you whatever it is that you're out there doing, okay? So clear communication, now she'd like to scratch her face. Clear communication is the key, right? So if we're moving our seat bones and we're actively riding our horse, we can have a shorter, like more collected walking gait, or we can really push that horse forward into a more elongated gait using our seat bones. Okay? All right, so now from here, let's talk about having a nice balanced halt. Okay? So a nice balanced halt, we will, Dazzler, if you want to pick up your stirrups again, I'm sorry. Okay, so in a nice balanced halt, we're going to ask our horse to halt. Okay, and so what I want you to see is Rainey, our horse here, has all 4 feet side by side nicely together, correct? One's not more forward, one's not, they're pretty well together. So that tells you that Jaslyn had a nice balanced halt, okay? And she achieved that because she sat back in her seat just enough to counter that inertia, that forward motion, the stopping of the forward motion, so that she didn't fall onto the forehand of her horse. She maintained her independency, her independent balance on top of this horse, which allowed the horse to stop squarely and balanced, okay? So this is something that you're gonna want to practice to be able to do, to be able to get your horse to stop squarely, to have that balance in the seat from the walk to the halt, and then back to the walk, and then back to the halt. You're gonna wanna practice this over and over and over again. Okay, so that is a lot of things to learn for lesson 1, right? So we talked about our balance comes from our line between our head, our shoulder, our hip, and our heel. We talked about if you're in front of the line, what happens? You'll fall on your horse's forehand. And what that does, falling on your horse's forehand, it makes them imbalanced. And not that you're heavy on your horse, I'm not saying that. For vantage, you are like the size of a house cat on that horse. However, even a house cat, if it's not well balanced, well positioned, can be a handful to carry, right? And so, say you're trying to go around a barrel really fast or something like that, you're in their way and you'll make them kind of pop out. It can cause different things. So even aside of your balance on the horse, you want to be able to maintain your independency in your line, okay? Behind the line, same thing. Now, if your horse starts to bronc or is, acting up, we do call that safety seat. Do lean back, put your feet forward, and pull the one-handed pulley. Forgot to talk about this earlier, where you grab up as far as you can, just like we did for the safety stop, the e-brake. Pull them, put them in your pocket, lean back as far as you can, and just wait until they stop moving, okay? So that's safety seat. Now, we talked about our hand position. We're not gonna lay our hands on our horse. We're not gonna lay our hands on our pommel. We're not going to cross the midline right now, or any of that. We're gonna keep our hands a bit length apart. We're gonna have our reins in between our house and our pinky finger. We're gonna have our roofs over our house, okay? And then I should also add that while we're talking about like the basic riding, there's a line that you want to have. You want to have about a 90-degree angle. So this top part of your arm, it's called the humerus here. It should be hanging down kind of parallel to your body. And from your elbow to the bit should be a line that it's a straight line. It kind of goes at I don't know, like an angle straight to the bit, okay? So that's how you want to hold your hands. Now, for Jaslyn here, she has barrel reins, and these reins are very short, so that's kind of hard to accomplish. But for any other kind of reins, if you're using just, regular riding reins, you want to achieve that line, okay? So now we talked about that. We talked about you want to be able to keep your hands here, so you're going to have to collect up your reins and let out your reins dynamically according to your horse's head carriage, so that you can tip the head just by going like this or like this from side to side, or stop your horse as well, okay? And then we talked about walking, using your seat bones as an active rider and not as a passenger, so that you can elongate the stride through your seat bones, or you can shorten the stride through your seat bones, and that the walking is a 4-beat gait. 1, 2, 3, 4, okay? So you can think of the gaits sort of like music notes, if you read music at all. The walking gait is like a whole note, 1, 2, 3, 4, and you can bump up the tempo of that note, 1, 2, 3, 4, or slow down the tempo, 1, 2, 3, 4, through your seat, okay? Now, when we go up to the trot, that's a 2-beat gait, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Same thing, we can have a fast 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, which we call that the posting trot, or we can have a slower 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, and that would be more of a seated trot. And we'll talk about that in subsequent videos and lessons. And then, of course, your canter or your lope is 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. It's like a wave, okay? 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And then, so kind of just giving you something to assimilate it to like music notes, okay? All right, so Jaslyn, I thank you very much, and Rainey, I think, is taking a nap now. And we will be back with lesson 2, where we talk some more about the walking and staying balanced at the walk, and elongating your stride, and collecting up your reins or letting out the reins. And then we may start to talk about some trotting from there, okay? All right, thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time.